Hey guys, just got a huge haul. 15 books. 14 horror and one like crime thriller. Let's go through what I got. We got Mary by Nat Cassidy. I read his book Nestlings and loved that. And I know it's between that and this one are like his two very popular ones. Granted, I think he only has like 3 books, but very excited to check this out. I know it's very, very beloved. So, Nat Cassidy, I believe in you. One non-horror I got is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. Bit of a crime, serial killer story. Very interested in this. I've heard so much about him and from the thriller readers that he's like one of the current goats right now. So I rarely read thrillers. I really love thrillers, but it's hard for me to get out of the horror space to go check that out and stuff like that. So very excited to get there. One of my favorite covers of the books I've bought, really, really beautiful. Of the chunkier side of things, I got Adam Neville's Last Days, cult horror, from what I can recall. I know this is like one of his more popular books, and I've heard a lot about it. I hear it's a bit slow and stuff like that, so it's gonna be like one of the last books I read of this pile. Crafting for Sinners by Jenny Kiefer. I read her book, This Wretched Valley. That was her debut. This is her sophomore release. Loved This Wretched Valley. That book is like one of the best debut novels I think I've ever read. Really loved that. This is very different from This Wretched Valley from what I've heard, but still pretty fast paced, similar to This Wretched Valley, which was quite the page turner. So this one I might get a little bit sooner than some of the others. When the Wolf Comes by Nat Cassidy. So another Nat Cassidy. Now I officially have all of his books. I assume this is like a werewolf thing or something like that. I know what it's about, but I always feel like I'm missing a piece to what it's about. But either way, I'm super excited. This one seems like a little bit more up my alley than Mary's gonna be, but Mary does have involved like some serial killer thing or something like that. So I think I'll dig that too. We're getting a little small here with Thrum by Meg Smitherman. This is a sci-fi little horror novella, so this will be a one I'll probably put at the forefront. Knock out the smaller ones before I get to the chunkier ones, but I've heard very good things about it. I dig the cover, and really, what more do you need? American Rapture by C.J. Lead. Mayfly is one of my favorite books of all time. If you follow me, then you've heard me talk about that book at nauseum, and this is supposed to be very different but still have her brand of, hey, this is gonna be pretty gnarly, but this is like some religious apocalyptic type horror, and I think it's supposed to get pretty horny from what I can recall. But Mayfly was also very horny. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Love the font treatment, the bright pink and stuff like that. Makes it very fun. I've read quite a lot of his books at this point. I think this is like the 6th or 7th book I've read from him. And I think with this, I will be reading. I think I would have read all of his slashers once I get through this. And I like him a lot. I'm not as high on him as most people are. Like, I don't think he's ever had like a 5 out of 5 star for me, but he's gotten very close. But he's also had some that I thought were just okay or whatever. So I'm excited, but not as hyped as some of these other books. Another Adam Neville with The Ritual. This is another very popular one from him. This was also made into a movie. I never watched the movie, but now I definitely will have to. I think I've heard like kind of mixed things. I think some people really dig the movie and some people really are like, no, just read the book. So I'll come with that with an open mind, but this one, people in the woods and everything like that, a little Blair Witchy, it seems pretty interesting. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clearer. I think that's how you say his last name. Not sure. I've heard excellent things about this, although I also hear it gets a little divisive. I think some books get so popular they just become divisive because you have so many people who have read it. So I don't know. I know plenty of people who really fuck with this book, so I'll come at this one with an open mind. I know it gets ambiguous with the ending, which I know some people you're really gonna love or really gonna hate. I'm somewhere in the middle. I can really love an ambiguous ending, or I could be really hate it. I think it's just it's a fine art, and it's hard to nail it. But if you do, it can really rock. One of my books that I've had on my TBR the longest, I've been dying to read, is Mike Bakoven, Fantastic Land. This book I hear so much about, and I know it's supposed to be like a mixed media type thing. I I think people have said, I'm not too sure. Either way, this sounds like such a ripper. And I know the audiobook people say is like it's like one of the greatest audiobooks. I don't really do audiobooks. I listen to some podcasts and stuff like that, and it would eat up my podcast time. So I just prefer reading books. But this one, I'll be open minded. Maybe I'll check out the audiobook. Either way, finally have this in my hands. Another small one here with Delia S. Dawson's Guillotine. Some Eat the Rich horror here. I've heard people compare this to Ready or Not, which is like one of my favorite comfort horror movies, horror comedies. So very excited to get into this. Another short one, so probably in the forefront of what I'll be reading on top of all the other stuff that I have before I even bought any of these books. So yikes. We got Echo by Thomas Old Hoyvelt. I have read Hex. I talk about Hex a lot. I really love Hex. It's not a 5 out of 5 for me. I think there's some pacing issues, and I think there's some subplots that could be a little condensed and a little bit quickened, get to the point or whatever. But I still really love that book, and I think because the ending of that really hit so fucking hard, the climax of Hex is just god tier. So I'm very curious to hear read his other work. I know some people who really love his other work, but I just never really hear a whole lot besides Hex. I know he released a new novel, so I'm hearing a lot of stuff about that. But it's a new novel, so who knows? In a couple months, people won't be talking about that and go back to talking about Hex. But either way, I'm very excited to read his other work. I've been telling myself, hey, you love Hex, you should read his other work. And another book by him, Oracle. This is another that I decided to pick up. I was like, you know what? I now have most of his work. So hopefully I don't know which one I'm going to read first, but whichever one I read first, hopefully I really love it. So I want to read the next one, and then can get on the hype train about the rest of his bibliography. So hopefully he has some, he's not a one-hit wonder with Hex and can deliver some other stuff with his other books. And finally, we have Heads Will Roll by Josh Whitting. This is a slasher. Sometimes you just need something basic, and this sounds like a super basic slasher novel, and I love it. If you can nail the formula of what you traditionally think for a slasher, I'm all in. This sounds like a lot of fun. I think I've seen some people, I didn't quite hit for them, but the slasher genre has been done so much, it's hard to like really nail something, whether it's super fresh or you're hitting on the more traditional tropes and ideas that you typically see. Either way, I'm very excited for it. I'm always in the slasher mood. It's one of my favorite subgenres, so I will be putting this as a huge priority. Let me know any of the thoughts of the books that I've picked up, which ones I should put on a priority. I'm going to read all of them, but if there's any that you're like, you could save this for last, let me know in the comments. You can check out my book Unfold. It's a slow burn workplace creature feature available now. And my Substack I post every Sunday, so you can also check that out.